Welcome back to Bleav in Colts. I'm Lawrence Owen. With me, as usual, is my guy, Jerraud Powers. Jerraud, today we have a great special guest, someone who has been covering the Indianapolis Colts for quite some time now. Before we bring him in real quick, how was your week, man?
It was good. Weekend was good. I was in Atlanta. Kids had basketball tournaments there, so it was another, week of traveling with sports. But, the week was good. Can't complain at all. What about yourself?
Oh, not too shabby. Been sitting here looking for reports for the rookie minicamp. But with our special guest today, we get first eye action about what happened there. And speaking of that, let's go ahead and bring him in. We got Mike Chappell. What's going on, Mike? How are you doing this beautiful Monday morning?
When I get to this point in life, I say I'm above ground. So it's a good day anytime you're up above walking around. And I have been doing this for a long time, long enough that I covered Jerraud. So that tells you how long I've been around, because he's been out of football a long time.
A long time. And just looking back on that, it makes me feel kind of old. But I've always appreciated the work that you've done, man, and how you go about your reporting and everything. And I still remember my first days with the media when I got to Indy, and just how comfortable you guys just made me feel. So I want to always show that same report back to you guys, what I did. But appreciate you joining us today, man, to get us a little inside look up at what's going down in rookie camp.
Our partners at BetOnline continue to be the number one source for all your betting needs and sports info. Find all the latest sports developments, including updated odds on the NBA and NHL playoffs, Major League Baseball fights, and even next season's NFL futures. BetOnline is your continued source for all your wagering needs, including live betting on your favorite Vegas casino games and poker games. It's super easy to get started, so head over to the website today or use your mobile device to join and use our promo code Bleav to receive your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts.
And I guess just jumping right in it, my first question would be, out of the rookies so far, of what you've seen and what you've heard, what player you think is going to have the most impactful role or opportunity to take advantage of this season?
Probably because of the way the roster is built in the offseason, it's sort of the obvious ones. Alec Pierce, a receiver out of Cincy, because the receiver room it still needs help, I think. But he should step in and go side by side with Michael Pittman. And Jelani Woods, I'm telling you, he's 6'7", and he's a specimen. And we've seen tape of him, and he can get down the field. He makes catches, tough catches, yards after the catch, runs through people. So I think those two guys really have a chance to do something early. One of the third-round picks, Bernhard Raimann, it's hard to know. They're going to let him work at left tackle and compete with Matt Pryor, but they Bleav Matt Pryor can handle it. And if that's the case, maybe Raimann goes to right guard. So it's always hard to tell from rookie minicamp, because it's just the rookies, and you don't have any vets, any second-year players. So the quarterbacks are sort of iffy on getting the ball where it needs to be and all that. But at least no one, you said, boy, what'd they get this guy for? So at least you kind of saw what you expected. And I think that's what you come out of the rookie minicamp seeing, is these guys initially are who we thought they were.
Was there any undrafted free agents or late round picks that might have turned a few heads while you were there?
They've got another position that is open on depth is running back. Of course, they've got Taylor and Hines. They're as good as it gets for a tandem. They brought in Deshaun Downing as a tryout, but they signed Max Borgi and Devontae Price and C.J. Verdell, a kid from Oregon that's coming off a pretty serious or significant ankle injury. I think there's a spot at running back, at the third running back, for one of those guys to emerge. Deion Jackson is a returning number 3, and that's not to disparage him, but I think there's a spot at number 3 running back, because you're looking for depth. That guy needs to be a special teams player. That's probably an area to where there's going to be pretty stiff competition behind Taylor and Hines.
You talked about Alec Pearson having the opportunity right away just because of the situation of that wide receiver room. How do you think Reggie Wayne, being back in Indy, and you obviously, I know you talked about your age before the show. You actually
covered Reggie for crying out loud.
And I used to call him old, so I don't want to throw any shots there. But how do you think his impact in that wide receiver room with the guys being so young, and it's a position where everybody have their eyes on? I mean, it's been some that Chris Ballard's talked about, Coach Wright, been openly talking about it. How do you think what he brings to the table will impact that room?
Ideally, I think you'd like to have a player in the room. Receivers room, cornerback room, whatever, to where you can say this is how he does it. Watch him. Well, they don't have that presence. I mean, Michael Pittman, this is his third year. So Reggie's a guy that he's been there, he's done that. It's not like a couple years ago they had Tom Rathman as a running backs coach. Great player in his time, but I'm not sure the players really knew of Tom Rathman. Well, these guys know Reggie. It's not like he's been gone that long. And he's such an icon in the building. It's going to be huge. One thing that I asked Reggie about when we talked to him, I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago, about it as a coach, how do you coach guys knowing that they're not you, they can't do what you do? And he admitted that. That's one thing Chris Ballard said early on is, remember 87, these guys aren't you, they can't do what you've done. But he can school them on how to do it, how to really be in the details, and not let your footwork and timing and leverage and all that. I mean, there's no better teacher than Reggie Wayne. I remember one of the first decisions they made in 2012 when Andrew Luck was here. It was, do you re-sign Reggie Wayne, who was certainly near the end of his career, or Pierre Garçon, who was just beginning his career? And Pierre had a much brighter or longer future than Reggie would. They went with Reggie because they wanted Andrew Luck to have a guy that he could lean on and trust. I guess trust is the best word. And that's what Reggie gives you. He gives you the trust factor. And he's always, as you know, Jerraud, he's always got a great personality. He's a great people person, interacts well. If these guys listen, Reggie will impart information and knowledge. And I don't see any downside to Reggie because he's been there. He's done that at a Hall of Fame level. And I think this is a room that can learn greatly from Reggie Wayne.
Thank you for watching Jerraud Powers and I here on Bleav in Colts, part of the Bleav Podcast Network. Don't forget to smash that like button, hit subscribe if you're not subscribed, and tag that notification bell so that you're notified next time we upload a video or go live. And don't forget, you can hit that little red share button. Help us out a lot with exposure and getting our stuff out to more fans. Now, let's get back to the video. You talked about earlier about how the wide receiver room doesn't have a lot of veteran depth there, that they're going to have to really, like you said, focus on Reggie Wayne. But Ballard did do something surprising. He was a little bit more aggressive during free agency this year than he has in the past. Getting guys like trading for Yannick and going and getting Matt Ryan, which was unbelievable, in my opinion, on the value that he got out of this draft pick and getting him. And then, of course, Stephon Gilmore. How important do you think those guys that he grabbed off the free agent market, those veterans, will be to these young guys that are coming in this year?
It'll be huge. And what he did is we always looked at going into the offseason, what are the key areas you got to address? And they were all the big point areas: quarterback, left tackle, edge pass rusher, cornerback, receiver. I still don't think they've done enough at receiver. I think they still need a veteran guy. We'll see. I think T.Y. Hilton is still in play. But just add, to get Yannick Ngakoue, it costs you Rock Ya-Sin, the starting corner. So they created a hole at cornerback, but without smearing Jerraud Powers, I'll take an edge pass rusher over a cornerback every day. I just will. I think a pass rush solves so many issues. I don't care how, really quality your corners are. And the Colts have had quality corners here. What they've lacked recently is that edge pass rusher. And Ngakoue gives him that. He's going to make the corners better. And Stephon Gilmore, I'm guessing he's not the 2019 Defensive Player of the Year player, but he played pretty well at the end of last year when he was traded. So I think they've really upgraded all those positions. Left tackle, again, I'm still a bit nervous at. But one thing people need to understand, and I don't want to go too deep into this because this isn't rookie minicamp, but the decision to trade Carson Wentz after one season, that's incredible. And that was going to happen. The way the season went, it was going to happen. Playoffs, no playoffs. They saw things they weren't happy with. When they made the decision to trade Carson Wentz, Matt Ryan was not available. They were prepared to either cut or trade Carson Wentz, not knowing who his backup was, or not backup, who his replacement was. So that it told me all I need to know about where they were with Carson Wentz. And then about a week or so later, after they make the deal, Matt Ryan's available because of Atlanta pursuing Deshaun Watson. So it just shows you that they addressed so many major issues, receiver in the draft, tight end in the draft. They're really approaching this season like, darn it, we need to get back together. We need to be a playoff team. We need to win the AFC South. And by and large, they've done the positions they needed to do, except for left tackle.
And that's where I was going at with my next question. I was, sitting here thinking when the offseason started, it was just like, man, what is Chris Ballard going to do, with this situation? It was the first time I ever seen anything out of the Colts organization where, they were openly talking about, things that they were happy with, not happy with, Jim Irsay coming out and saying that we got a problem, at the quarterback position or whatnot. Never in I didn't think it was ever at a disrespectful way, but just openly talking about the business side of it and what you're thinking. It was kind of a shock to me. But we were just sitting here thinking like, man, what is Chris Ballard going to do? How is he going to replace Carson? What quarterback is out there? What's going to fit, the Colts roster and this and that? And it just seems like everything played, into place, and he capitalized on every opportunity that came after that, getting rid of the entire contract with Carson, playing his cards right where Matt Ryan falls in his lap. Then Stephon Gilmore falls in the lap. So it just seemed like an offseason where things went well. Do you think Chris Ballard thinks that this draft, how important this draft was, especially in trying to find young players to fill certain needs? Do you think he hit a home run with the draft as a whole? I know it's, still young and the guys haven't played or anything, but on paper, does it seem like he hit a home run with the draft?
Yeah, we always look at, I would be a terrible GM because I'd be drafting all the time for need. I just would. I need a receiver. I'll take this guy. I need a left tackle. And that gets you in trouble because you're reaching all over the place. But they needed a receiver, and Pierce is sort of who they had targeted. They knew they weren't going to get one of the top 4 or 5 guys. But they even traded back from 42, and then they got the left tackle, Raimann, with the pick they got. And they needed a tight end. They got 2. They got Ogletree, who's another 6'5" guy. If they've got the right players, yes, a home run, we'll see. I mean, to me, a home run, it almost has to involve a quarterback. Yeah. It just does. But they've hit on players that they think can help them. He considered these 4 second and third round players starter quality. Nick Cross, he can push for playing time and be a starter. So, but they've got to step up. They need to have these guys do something early. Again, the receiver corps, Michael Pittman, and then the stat that I just wear out is the other receivers coming back, not named Pittman, had 28 catches last year, for like 380 yards. That you just can't. You can't ask Matt Ryan to come in unless you help him with the good supporting cast, and that's why get that receiver room in shape. Get some tight ends. The tight ends really weren't big factors last year. Jack Doyle was at the end, and They didn't get much out of Kylan Granson as a rookie. So they really want Matt Ryan to be, I'm not saying a game manager at all. That's just a slap in the face I won't do. But don't have to throw for 350 and 3 touchdowns every week. You've got a running game, for crying out loud. You got Jonathan Taylor, if not the best, one of the best running backs in the league. But you need to have more than Michael Pittman. You need to have more than Mo Ali Cox. And if they can just get something, 50 catches from Alec Pierce for 700 yards and get that tight end threat. Frank Reich loves to use tight ends, mismatches down the field, and they're key in the running game. People need to watch some tape of Jonathan Taylor's big runs and watch Jack Doyle's blocks on those. He was great at it. So, yes, this is a very good draft if these top 3 or 4 guys are what they Bleav they are.
This channel is proudly sponsored by the Backroom Collection. They do beautiful sports canvas art with football, basketball, baseball, and other sports themes. Special orders are accepted and autograph pieces are available. Many Indianapolis Colts signed pieces will be available beginning in November. Just use your discount code CL10 to purchase the pieces you want to spice up your living area. That's CL10. So, I'm going to push back a little bit on the whole quarterback draft have to have a quarterback for a home run. I think the 2018 draft for Ballard was a home run.
True. Now you say that, now they've got to pay that guard $20 million. So
right, or more. You never know. But I mean, that's what happens when you have great drafts, right? Going back to Ballard, and you just got done talking about, how you would go need all the time. And we just talked about how Ballard has been so patient with his drafting. He's been patient in free agency as well. I mean, we sat here and watched how patient he's been these 5 years. And this year, he somehow still came up with a lot of good talent in free agency. Apparently, being patient, trading back, as you said, to get guys, still being patient though, but still getting his guys from the video they posted about their draft thing. It kind of seemed like they got their three of their top guys after trading back, which is kind of like, what, my question to you is, over the years that you have been covering the Indianapolis Colts, where would you rank Ballard when it comes to how patient he is compared to the other GMs that you have seen?
More patient than Ryan Grigson, and that's not a slap at Ryan Grigson. It's hard to compare him with Bill Polian because Bill was normally, after they got things established, he's drafting 28, 29, 30, 32 the 1 year. So, but he was patient too. Remember, they traded back once, twice, maybe 3 times for Bob Sanders. So, of course, Bob Sanders had the injury at the time, but he's got his way of doing things. It drives people crazy sometimes. It really does. But he sticks with his guns. He really drives us crazy in the offseason with free agency because he is simply not going to overpay for players. And he knows it's going to cost him players. We always joke that here's a GM. Here's a GM with an owner who basically says, here's my money. Go spend it. I mean, how many GMs have a guy like that? And Chris says, no, that's okay. We're going to hold firm. He said there's been a couple times where he almost pulled the trigger on a big name guy at a big contract. He didn't. And he said it worked out well for us because that guy didn't pan out. And I don't know what the batting average is in free agency, 50-50 maybe. And when you miss on those top-end guys, it costs you. It costs you performance on the field, and it costs you money you don't recoup and dead money. So he's got a way of doing things. Bill, but I tell you, one thing where he and Bill are very similar is if you hit on a player in the draft, you re-sign him. You draft your own, except for Jerraud. Weren't you not go after 4 years, Jerraud? I can't remember.
Yeah, I was actually in contract talks before the firing, and then when the GM and then they cleaned house and Grigson came in, he wanted his guys, and I was kind of left to go into free agency, which is understandable.
Right, but generally, when there's stability, You draft your own, you develop your own, and you re-sign your own. Darius Leonard, Braden Smith, Naheem Hines, on and on and on. That's what you do. And Bill Polian was the same way. It was the same way with Peyton. Of course, Peyton, take him out of the mix, but Tarek Glenn and Jeff Saturday, who wasn't a draft pick, but a guy they brought in, Dwight Feeney Mathis, Ryan Dean, on and on and on, they re-signed their own. And that's how you build a team. Then you use free agency to fill holes. You need an edge pass rusher, which these guys do every year because they've missed, quite frankly, on those draft picks.
Mm-hmm.
But re-sign your own and use free agency to sort of fill holes, not use free agency as a way to build your roster, because that teams that do that seem like they're doing that every other year, and it's just a recipe for disaster.
The last question I got for you, my guy, is you had mentioned about just still thinking that, some need to be done in that wide receiver room. Is there a wide receiver out there right now that you would think fit the Colts culture, fit the Colts system? Because like you said, you want Matt Ryan to have some type of guy out there of insurance. That's just been his background, from Tony Gonzalez to Julio and all those guys. He's always had a player to where he knew he can go here and the job was going to be done. Is there a player out there that, might be in talks and just waiting to see how things pan out that you think can fit what Coach Wright want to do?
I keep going back and forth on T.Y. Hilton. Early in off season, I thought they'd re-sign him, and then I thought not. Now I'm back on the re-signing. I think he's the guy they bring in. We talked to Chris before minicamp, and he said we're going to sort of see. He said he can still play. We're still interested. We want to see how rookie minicamp does, which I'm not sure what you're going to see in rookie minicamp to change your mind. With T.Y., he simply has to accept the fact what his role would be. He primarily is going to be a third down guy out of the slot. Alec Pierce initially is not going to be a slot guy. Jarvis Landry, I thought, would be an option. Well, no. I really don't think they're going to look at Julio Jones. I just don't. I know that's what everybody wants. I just think I don't think they believe he's got enough left. So to me, if they bring in a veteran, it's going to be T.Y. Hilton. And I think they need that presence. T.Y. has developed into such a leader in the locker room and in the room. I think now you can't bring T.Y. back to be a coach. That's what Reggie is. Only bring T.Y. back if you think he can give you quality minutes and quality snaps and play. If you think he can and will accept the fact that he's not the alpha dog that he's always been, I re-sign T.Y. at what's going to be a modest contract.
You say that, and I think that's a great point. And then, just thinking in a full circle moment, T.Y.'s rookie year, the guy in his room was Reggie Wayne. He had somebody to learn from and, how to do all that. So it would be a great thing to have a guy in the room as successful as T.Y. with one organization of where the guys can look to because of familiarity, because of T.Y. being in that room previous years with some of those guys anyway. So and
he's on the field with it. He's practicing with it. It's not where the coach has to walk to you. The guy's on the field with you, and he can sort of show you this is what we're doing. I think Reggie's important. Having a guy stand alongside you in the line in drills, it's got to be invaluable.
Well, it's not just that. I mean, like, T.Y.'s a guy who will, you watch him to learn, how to be a professional as well. When other teams are out there during training camp and practices and stuff like that, and other guys are out there doing their drills and stuff, T.Y.'s on the sideline running individuals, got a guy sitting there throwing him passes and stuff, while he's doing certain things. That's an invaluable thing when you have a very, very young roster. He's not necessarily coaching him, but he's just being that guy that, teaching by example. So that's a big thing as well.
But again, he's got to be a guy that can be effective on the field.
Mm-hmm.
Or I think it can be a distraction to bring a guy in who you're wondering, well, every other week we're asking Frank, well, what's up with T.Y.? Why isn't T.Y. getting the ball? I'm not saying T.Y. would be the distraction, I don't think. But I think if they believe he can be a player, you bring him back.
Is there a little bit of concern about Ty with specifically with you with the injury history that he's had over the last few years?
Yeah, it's not 1 year; it's like 2 or 3 years, and at some point, you get older, and the body isn't what it used to be. And the injury last year, the primary one was that, remember the disc injury in the neck that took surgery. And he even considered. He told us he thought maybe it's time to walk away because you're talking your neck. But he's had the hamstring and the quads. But again, if he's going to play a lesser role, maybe fewer snaps eases that. You take all that into account, and I sort of think this is the best place for Ty, because if he was going somewhere else, I think he would already be there. If there was a market for T.Y. Hilton, I think he would have already gone there. This is the ideal place. Come back 1 year, have that good year, and then prepare yourself for the Ring of Honor.
Well, thank you, Mike, for joining. I appreciate that. Why don't you take a moment, let everybody know a little bit about you, where they can find you and your work.
But my Twitter's mchappell51, and I post my stuff on Fox59, CBS4.com. Again, I've been doing this since '84. What year were you born, Jerraud?
87.
Let's see that. So a long time. So it's again, what I think is cool is when we get a chance to do things like this, and I run into Jerraud other places, is to reconnect with guys, because it's not always an us versus them mentality, but there's so many good guys that come through the locker room, and when they're gone, they're gone. I mean, I've had a chance to reconnect with Jerraud, Antoine Bethea, people like that. Great people. Darius Butler, we've had come back and all this. Great guys that you can get some kind of connection in the room, and then they make a move when they're gone. So I've been very fortunate to keep in contact, and I enjoy the interaction with players. I just do. By and large, they're great guys, and by the way, they've got a life outside of football. It's always great to see guys doing things after football, because there are examples of guys, for whatever reason, who don't. So kudos to you, Jerraud, and keep doing a good job.
Appreciate you, my man. I appreciate you taking time out. I'm definitely going to be in contact with you during the season about coming back on the show. So I really appreciate you.
Whenever you need me, give me a dial.
We'll do it. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Bleav in Colts, brought to you by BetOnline. That was Mike Chappell. I'm Lawrence Owen with my guy, Jerraud Powers. And until next time, as usual, go Colts.